What if I told you the explosive price action we've been seeing in the One Piece TCG right now was not because of what you think it is, but is in fact something much more sinister happening behind the scenes? And that's what we're going to be talking about in today's video, guys. And from as far as I can tell, no one else in the One Piece market is talking about this stuff. So this is going to be a really fascinating video for you. But before we get into it, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe, guys. We are almost at 7,000 subscribers now, which has been absolutely fantastic. Thank you so much for the support. I really appreciate it. So if you could leave a like and subscribe, that'd be great. Use code Theory or Papa to get 10% off your Gamer Subs order. Of course, check them out. Link down in the description below. And without any further ado, guys, let's dive right in. So guys, as we all know, the price action we've been seeing in the One Piece TCG the last few months has been historical. It has been absolutely unprecedented seeing how well the One Piece market is. Now, I've always had faith. I always knew one day this would happen. But for the first time, and maybe forever, for a long time, it feels like Pokemon is currently in the shadow of One Piece, at least for the card game, which is really fascinating to see happening in real time. Obviously, Pokemon is massive, and it is technically bigger than One Piece in terms of the IP, as far as I believe, but One Piece is right up there, okay? It is a huge, huge IP. It's a very, very popular anime. It's a very popular manga, and we've been finally seeing that realized in the One Piece TCG. But guys, so many people are out there saying it's the scalpers, it's the investor bros, there's not enough supply, there's not enough demand. But if you're somebody that's taken a few economics courses in college or university, you definitely know that there's more than meets the eye. Let's go over to Google Earth real quick, just to have a visual here to represent where I'm going with this. So guys, the world runs on money, okay? And different countries have different monetary policies. You know, there are different opportunities. People are doing different things with their money. And, you know, people invest in stocks, people invest in bonds, people invest in crypto. And now we're seeing people investing in collectibles and trading card games. Now, that's been obvious for the last few years. I mean, if you're coming from the Pokemon space, you know this has already been the case. And now we're seeing this with the One Piece TCG. But guys, in this big, beautiful world of complicated monetary policies, there are certain countries that do not allow the same freedoms that you and I may have when it comes to what we do with our money. Now, obviously, when you have your money, you can do what you want with it, right? You have to be responsible. You have to be smart. If you want to have savings, you gotta plan for it. You know, you can't just blow all your money and just hope one day you're rich. You have to be strategic. Some people, they buy gold. Some people, they buy silver. And of course, some people are buying One Piece TCG cards because we think down the road it's going to be a worthy investment, and we think it's going to essentially make us money, right? But guys, certain countries in the world do not allow their citizens to do this, right? And I'm not here to blast any countries, it's just how it is, right? But certain places in the world do not allow their citizens to move money outside their country. So how do they get around this? Well, we've actually been seeing this in crypto, because crypto is a worldwide market. You know, there's no country technically that controls the market, so to speak. We've seen it with real estate. Over here in Canada, we've got a huge problem with the real estate market because so many people from different countries were coming over here and buying up real estate because, well, buying a home while maybe staying in your country is technically like a way to shift money around. But we're now seeing this happening in the One Piece TCG market. That's right, guys. This has been absolutely insane. People from other countries are moving their money in strategic ways that are not so obvious, like buying up property in other countries, you know, buying up crypto, buying up collectibles, buying trading cards, because it's a way to shift and move money around in a non-traditional, I guess you want to say, way. More so the cards and crypto. Real estate's always been a thing, and I really do believe we're seeing that happening right now with the One Piece market. Now, I think this is also happening in Pokemon, but like, it's just something I feel like not a lot of people have been really talking about within this market. I know we all like to focus on the scalpers and the lack of print runs and all that sort of stuff, but in the world economics, guys, you know, the One Piece market does not get a free seat. Everything we're seeing that has to do with money is all connected, guys, and we are seeing that unfold in front of our eyes. You know, supply and demand is the bread and butter of economics, And although it's a straightforward concept, it's just such a very fascinating conversation to have, because while everyone who watches this channel is probably hoping to kind of get some kind of knowledge to invest and to make some money, like obviously we can see here, if any of you guys happened to buy the first set, OPO1, the blue bottom there, just hold this simple box. You would have $6,500 US in your pocket, which is unreal. This was literally what? Well, how much was this? I mean, a year ago, we can't go past a year, but like, we all know this box was probably $200 when it first came out. And even a year ago to this date, it was $1,000 and has just completely mooned since. But monetary policies are different all around the world, and people who have access to products such as this can simply move their money into product instead of, say, investing overseas to hold on to in the purpose of storing their money and, of course, protecting themselves from inflation. Cards can move in a way that money can't. Money has a lot of regulations, while cards are simply cards, right? And cards are not really regulated as far as I know. It's not really considered an asset, although we like to talk about it and consider it one. But yeah, it moves in a very different way, and people have to strategize around that who possibly live outside of the West or outside of Europe or certain areas, right? So it's a really fascinating thing to think about when you step into this space and consider all of the possibilities. You could say cards are a borderless asset, right? Because, again, no regulation. And guys, another thing too, like, One Piece is global. You know, people all over the world are aware of One Piece. It's not like a specific region or country or just, you know, Japan or whatever. You know, the IP is massive. People from all around the world watch One Piece, read One Piece, play One Piece, and, you know, that's what makes the difference. This isn't, it's like Pokemon. You know, Pokemon is massive. Pokemon is all over the world. Everybody knows what Pokemon is, right? I think Pokemon is bigger than Disney. So, I mean, you know, it's one of the biggest IPs in the world, and it functions as a place where people can store their money. And of course, that's what we're seeing right now in the One Piece market. And that's like more or less where I wanted to go with this, guys, is the fact that, like, you know, these cards are pieces of art, right? We can call them collectibles all we want, but art already is an asset. It is technically an asset class. I mean, you ever watch Alpha Investments, Rudy? I mean, I love watching that guy's videos when he's in his house, because, like, you see the man's a genius. He had a career in investing and investments and stuff, and you see the genius, because the man is always sitting in front of a bunch of beautiful looking paintings which hold monetary value. Now, another thing too, I was going to be a real estate agent. Fun fact. I was studying, I was reading all of the notes, and I was getting ready for the test, and this was a few years ago when the market was not looking so great, and I was like, maybe this isn't the best thing to be doing right now. So I actually kind of backed out of it, but I studied everything, and I should have done it looking back, but whatever, who cares? But I learned a lot. And another thing too, guys, is money laundering. Yeah, a big thing in those notes that I was studying for was money laundering, which is another thing, and I don't want to really get into that, but look it up. Money laundering, it's a method to, you know, clean dirty money, essentially. And could that be happening in the One Piece market? Yeah. Could it be happening in Pokemon? Yeah. Does it happen in real estate? Yes. You know, it's just a function of economics, and unfortunately, bad behavior, and, you know, money laundering is illegal. Don't do it. But, like, listen, the more you know, the smarter you are with this stuff, right? I mean, you know, that's the one thing I love about economics. So many people think economics is boring and stuff like that. Maybe microeconomics is a little boring, but like macroeconomics, you know, the world of money, the world of finance, it's a fascinating place, guys. And, you know, it's not black and white. Every country has different rules and methods, and there's different ways to invest and hold your money and inflation and all that stuff, and protect from inflation. It's just a really fascinating world when it comes to money and investments and that sort of stuff. And listen, I know this is a One Piece TCG video. I know we're talking about One Piece. Obviously, One Piece is a very strong place. I think it's a very strong IP. I think it's still relevant. It's going to be relevant for a few years now. They're going to actually start slowing the pace of the anime. So we're going to get slower paced seasons, which is going to help Oda, you know, outpace the animation, which was kind of a big problem with Egghead. I think we're getting 26 episodes a year now. So I think One Piece is probably going to be consistently relevant for the next 5 to 10 years for sure. And I do think One Piece in general is just going to be a really good place for the next 5 to 10 years. Now, obviously, no one has a crystal ball. I could be totally wrong. This could keep going forever. You know, we really don't know. This is like one of the first times Pokemon's really had a run for its money. I love the arguments that people make that Pokemon will always win over One Piece. We shall see, okay? But hey, as of right now, even if that is the case in the future, it's nice to have our day as One Piece fans. I do think if you were able to buy in this market early and you've been able to enjoy the fruits of your labor, or should I say the fruits of your strategies, it's a great time. Obviously, if this is new and you're starting to enter this space, it's not it's a little daunting. It's a little daunting. Obviously, the prices we're seeing on some of these cards are just crazy, and they continue to go up and up and up. Now, we may see a downside soon, a little slump. I don't think there's going to be a crash, so to speak, but, you know, we're seeing it in Pokemon. There was a bit of a dip, and that's healthy. That's healthy for markets. We want to see that, and we will eventually see that with One Piece, guys. I like to say this in every video I can. Nothing goes up in a straight line forever. It will eventually come down. How much does it come down? The market will be the ones who tell us and decide that. But overall, guys, we have to constantly be on top of these things. We have to pay attention to a lot of factors. It's not just about who's playing what in the meta. It's also about the world, the state of things, money, finance, capital. What are people doing? We now know that there are asset managers who are getting involved in this. I mean, that's such a solid piece of information. I told you guys that on one of my recent videos. These are the sort of things that you're going to find here on Treasure Theory, guys, which is why you subscribe, so I can offer you some really solid value outside of just prices. With that being said, guys, I'm just going to leave it there for now because this was probably a lot to consider and think about. But it's a big world, guys, and there's a lot of crazy things going on out there. And the more you know, the smarter you'll be and the richer you'll feel. All right, guys, thank you so much for watching. A video should pop up on the screen. Be sure to click it, and I will see you over there.